Global crisis. Germany in free fall. What could possibly go wrong when you decide to allocate billions of euros to a conflict that doesn't directly concern you, instead of investing in policies that benefit the working class and strengthen your industrial position? Instead of strengthening social and development policies, Germany has announced massive investments in defense, allocating more than 100 billion euros to strengthen its army and acquire weaponry, aspiring to regain its position as a military power. At the same time, the confrontation with Russia, its main supplier of hydrocarbons, has deprived the country of a key source of energy resources to sustain its industrial development. This has triggered a series of economic problems such as factory closures, mass layoffs, salary cuts, and ultimately growing political tension that fuels the far right. The current leadership in Germany has dismantled much of the political and economic legacy that Angela Merkel consolidated for years. The governing coalition is on the verge of collapse, with serious disagreements between the allied parties, the Social Democrats, the Greens, and the Liberals. This lack of political cohesion has allowed the far right to strengthen, as many perceive it as a viable alternative to the coalition that no longer seems to represent a way out. Furthermore, Germany's alliances with the United States and Israel have been a determining factor in its estrangement from Russia. Sanctions and political decisions have stopped the flow of Russian hydrocarbons, increasing energy costs and limiting industrial competitiveness. This diversion of funds towards the war in Ukraine, more than 30 billion euros, and military expansion have left Germany with a deficit of 20 billion euros, something unprecedented in its recent history. Since Olaf Scholz took over as Chancellor, Germany has lost important local elections. Even Berlin, where the left governed for 20 years, has passed into the hands of the right. With an economy without a long-term plan and the erosion of political leadership, the country faces one of its most uncertain stages. Dependence and loyalty to the United States and its influence have resulted in a series of policies that have harmed Germany. The foreign policy aimed at sanctioning Russia has led the country into an energy crisis, making it difficult for national industry to survive. As energy prices rise, many German companies face difficulties in maintaining production, and the prospects for immediate relief are slim. The proposed support measures, such as subsidies to companies, tax cuts, and energy aid, do not seem to be enough to stop the growing recession. In addition, the consequences of these political decisions have been felt in the labor market. Mass layoffs are affecting key sectors, such as the automotive sector, where companies like Volkswagen have announced tens of thousands of job cuts and factory closures. Other sectors, such as rail and electronic chips, have also suffered heavy losses, largely due to the transition to renewable energy and competition with countries like China in the electric vehicle market. In the political sphere, Scholz has justified these decisions by arguing the need to avoid chaos and strengthen Germany in difficult times. However, his policies seem to have led the country to stagnation and widespread discontent. Internal tensions within the coalition have also intensified, and his relationship with the Liberals has deteriorated to the point that Scholz has dismissed his finance minister, Christian Lindner, in an attempt to stabilize the situation. Germany, caught in an energy and economic crisis, has prioritized militarization and spending in Ukraine over its national stability. Green investments have been sidelined, and tax cuts benefit large companies, while the most vulnerable sectors are neglected. Companies are forced to make drastic decisions, reducing working hours and wages to adjust to the high production costs. Volkswagen, for example, has announced the layoff of thousands of workers, the closure of factories and wage reductions in response to this crisis. Other companies, such as Bosch and Infineon, have also adopted similar measures, cutting staff and hiring. The transition to electric vehicle technology, in which Germany has fallen behind competitors like China, poses an additional challenge for its automotive industry. The current situation in Germany suggests that Scholz is at the beginning of his political defeat. His coalition is falling apart, and his commitment to leadership aligned with US policies and unconditional support for Ukraine has backfired. The lack of an economic strategy and the growing dependence on expensive energy, along with competitiveness problems, threaten to sink the German economy further into recession. The outlook is further complicated by the return of figures like Donald Trump, who has stated that Europe must take greater responsibility in the Ukrainian conflict, which would imply additional pressure on Germany and other European countries. The leaders of the German coalition are now trapped in a crisis of their own making, and their ability to get out of it seems limited. The price of confrontation with Russia and subordination to US policies is high, and Scholz and his government face an increasingly uncertain future. As Germany navigates its internal and external crises, the geopolitical chessboard becomes increasingly complicated. At the center of this intricate game is Vladimir Putin. For years, Germany has tried to balance its economic interests with the Kremlin and its commitment to NATO and the European Union. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline, once a symbol of economic cooperation between Germany and Russia, is now a monument to geopolitical tension. Critics say that Germany's dependence on Russian gas has compromised its ability to take a firm stance against Putin's aggressive policies. The Scholz government faces growing pressure, both from domestic and international allies, to reduce this dependence, but the alternatives are neither easy nor cheap. With the arrival of winter, the energy crisis worsens, and Germany seeks new energy sources while trying to maintain a united front with the EU. Meanwhile, Putin takes advantage of these vulnerabilities. His strategic maneuvers are designed to exploit divisions within Europe, and Germany, being the largest economy, is a prime target. Scholz's diplomatic skills are put to the test as he tries to navigate this geopolitical minefield without alienating key partners or further destabilizing his own government. The stakes are high. Germany's future, both economic and political, hangs in the balance. The decisions made at these critical moments will define the trajectory of German-Russian relations for years to come. Will Scholz rise to the occasion, or will Germany find itself further mired in the geopolitical quagmire? Only time will tell. But the implications of these decisions will be felt far beyond Germany's borders. In this high-stakes game, every move counts, and the world watches closely as Germany grapples with its complex relationship with Putin.